Hey guys, it's Greg with By the Bootstraps, b2bootstraps.com. Check out the store, check out the social media. Haven't been posting a lot because I've been dealing with some medical issues here, so I'm just kind of recovering, going through that. Wanted to make a video today because the verdict for the Jussie Smollett, whatever the hell his name is, came back. Now, back in 2019, when these charges first came down, or these supposed charges first came down, the incident that he claimed happened. This is that Empire actor who's black and gay who said that he was attacked in downtown Chicago on a blizzard night when I think it was like -20 outside. Apparently, two white Trump supporters attacked him wearing MAGA hats, poured bleach on him, looped some kind of noose around his neck, and yet the man went down to Subway, bought a sub or a salad, brought it back, wasn't disturbed, and claimed that he was just distraught from this activity. Said that he was attacked. Come to find out, no, he wasn't. Turned out his attackers were two Nigerian brothers, bodybuilders, who were friends with him, as we found out through this entire course and this entire litigation and what's going on. One of them was a gay lover, supposedly, by his own recollection and his own testimony. The other one was just his brother. Either way, not racist. They didn't attack him. Pre-planned, premeditated, and yet somehow it was a hate crime. Now, back in 2019 when this happened, I immediately said, hold on, red flag, hold on, wait up. What were you doing out in Chicago, downtown district, at like 2 a.m. in the morning? Which, that's not a crime, you can certainly do that. But why were you particularly out there, you know, with no security? You're supposedly this famous actor. Turns out you're not as famous as you think. You claim that you were viciously attacked. Come to find out through your testimony and security cameras that you actually performed a drive run of this activity, of this supposed attack with these two brothers the day before and then several days prior to the actual attack. So that's not true. You went out there and said that, oh, they were Trump supporters. Well, it turns out, no, that's not true either. In fact, we know it's not true because today you were convicted of 5 counts of disorderly conduct, lying to police officers, lying to the DA, lying to the prosecutors, and everything else, okay? And the arrogance of this man during this trial as he was going through, he actually had the balls and the gall to tell the prosecutor that he needs to stop using the N-word, I should say, in text that the prosecutor was quoting from his phone records. Imagine the gall of that. I have a quote verbatim from something that you said, filled with derogative statements, filled with racially charged statements, and then yet you as a defendant who's sitting on trial by your own decision is going to have the gall to tell the prosecutor that you shouldn't use those offensive words. Why did the prosecutor did not look at this guy and go, well, I don't see what the problem is, Mr. Smollett, or whatever your name is. You said them. This was pulled from your records. So if you are so offended by the words, why were you using them? Oh, wait. Double standards? Not that big of a deal? Doesn't care? So now this guy is going to be sentenced, which, good. I'm glad. And I said back in 2019 that this guy was guilty of a hate crime, which I was willing to sit there and say, hey, let's not judge. It sounded suspicious as hell at the time. Let's not jump to conclusions. Let's think about it. But if this guy was guilty, which I had my doubts, then the book should be thrown at this guy. No excuses. It reminds me of rape victims. Let me rephrase that. It reminds me of people who claim that they were raped and then come to find out that they weren't indeed actually sexually assaulted. They made claims or they made decisions that put them in bad situations where they might regret the actions of the day prior. Maybe they went out to the bar, had too many drinks, got with a guy, the guy had too many drinks, they decided to have sex. Or Say a girl cheats on her boyfriend, or a guy cheats on his girlfriend, and the woman, typically because it is a woman, claims that she was sexually assaulted. I have nothing but the most absolute contempt for people who assault other people, especially in such of a manner. But because I feel that way, I think the highest standard of the law should be applied to those individuals regardless of the situation, if it's proven. Now, that being said, if you claim that you were sexually assaulted or violated, for example, and you weren't, and this is just a decision of regret, or because you made a bad decision, or because you don't like the outcome of a situation, if you willfully, and it was proven that you were not sexually assaulted, knowing that the highest standard of punishment should be given to the offender, and yet you make a false allegation, whatever the punishment would be for that offender should be given just as equally to the one making the false allegations. I say that because I feel the same way when it comes to these so-called hate crimes, these so-called racial crimes that happen. I don't discriminate against people regardless of their race, their gender, sexuality. To me, it doesn't matter. But if you make a claim that because of your race, sex, sexuality, whatever it might be, if you make a claim against someone else, knowing that the punishment might be more severe because it's considered a hate crime, then whatever that punishment would have been given to the person who committed the crime against you should be equally applied to you just as severely. They're talking that this guy might get probation and a couple weeks of community service. No, this guy ought to go away for at least 2-3 years at a minimum, if not more. Whatever the crime punishment would have been given to these two so-called white individuals who didn't attack him, who didn't assault him, who didn't do anything to him, who don't even exist, had there been two so-called Trump MAGA supporters in that situation and they were caught and convicted, I guarantee you their conviction would have been, or their sentencing would have been 5 to 10 years. Based on sexual preference, based on race, based on so many other factors. That same philosophy and idea should be applied to this guy. What were you trying to prove by claiming a false hate crime? By saying that you were assaulted in a manner that literally was tearing the country apart. And I have a better question. Were all these liberal supporters and not just supporters but reporters at that same time, such as Joy Reid, MSNBC, CNN, all these people who were coming out who were just adamantly defending this Jussie guy with no facts, no proof. I mean, I at least said, hey, before we jump to a conclusion, let's just wait, let's see what happens. We don't know. It smells fishy, yes, but let's determine, let's see. Come to find out, I was right, yet again, just like I was with Kyle Rittenhouse. I didn't jump to conclusions. I said, wait, I don't like it. It looks suspicious. However, in my personal opinion, it was self-defense, but let's see what the trial says. Well, he was acquitted. Now you have a situation, you had all these liberal pundits jump to this guy's defense, to include the vice president at the time, or I'm sorry, Vice President Joe Biden, who is now the president, and Kamala Harris, saying that this guy was completely innocent and that he should be exonerated, if not be almost etched in stone like Martin Luther King. Is anyone going to ask Kamala Harris or anyone else at that time, Maxine Waters, Cory Booker, all these individuals, Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis Beto, are you going to ask, what's your opinion now, dude? Now that he's been convicted? Pretty silent. That's all I'm saying. We jump to these far conclusions, and I usually try to stay out of these conversations when it comes to political talk. I mean, if I wanted to do political videos, I could literally make a video every day of the week. Literally make a video every day of the week. But I feel like I've just inundate people, and quite frankly, if you don't agree with my personal opinion, you're just going to shut down, you don't want to listen to it. But you do need to pay attention to these situations like this, because it just goes to go show you time after time after time after time after time, there is a complete double standard. Kyle Rittenhouse, for example, was maliciously, in my opinion, attacked by the media. He was called a white supremacist. He was called a murderer. There were so many lies about that case by the media who painted this 17-year-old kid as this mass murderer. They didn't talk at all about the people who attacked him, to include the child rapist, to include the man who assaulted his family, his girlfriends, to the guy who even admitted on the stand of pointing the gun at Kyle Rittenhouse, hence why he lost his bicep. You know, they didn't talk about those people. But yet at the same time, they put on a pedestal a story that was so blatantly flawed from the get-go. It sounded like a bad movie. And now, as we know right now, at least according to the jury, they thought it sounded like a bad movie. There's no accountability. I don't want to make these personal videos. I'd rather talk about the military. I'd rather talk about first responders. I'd rather talk about police officers and the line of duty and stuff like that. Except there's so much more inundation of this stuff. And I think there's going to be a continuation of this behavior in these videos and things like this until we get to a point in this country where we start holding both sides accountable equally. You can't have an overwhelming one side of perspective where you just overbearing the one side with the burden of proof regardless of circumstances, and yet you have a complete blind eye to the other. As long as you have that imbalance, you're going to have people like me making videos saying this is wrong. Something is clearly wrong. Anyway, I find it interesting. You know, I just find it kind of funny. A prediction from 2 years ago is now true. I think they ought to throw the book of this guy. Not because I don't, not because I personally dislike him, although I don't think he's that great of an actor. I certainly don't think he's as good a singer. And at this point, I think he's a piece of crap, garbage individual. So I wish they would throw the book at him, but that would be justice and fair. Anyway, talk to you guys later.